much. Yes, so hello, my name is Rachel Crookes. I am the Nature Recovery Lead at Wild Oxfordshire. I'm going to be talking a little bit about UK, Oxfordshire's and the UK bats, and a little bit about their ecology, um, how to, how to attract them to your spaces as well. Very briefly, Wild Oxfordshire, we're a small charity based in the south of Oxfordshire, and we do all sorts of fun nature recovery projects. So I head up our community ecology team. We give out advice to different community groups, town and parish councils, businesses and schools, all sorts of people to help them make their spaces greener. And I head up our kind of partnership working as well. And yeah, basically, as a charity, we want more people engaged in nature conservation, and we do a lot of bringing together kind of environmental change makers. So, people like policymakers, local authorities, ENGOs, bringing people together to collaborate. And so we're all working together to do nature recovery. I think I'm going to jump straight on in there. 2 seconds. I'm just going to get my. Can everyone see the screen before I everyone getting nods? Brilliant. Um, bats, they're one of my all-time favourite animals, and I'm going to be telling you all about them today. So just a little bit of a starter. Bats are obviously mammals. They are warm-blooded. They've got fur on their bodies, give birth to live young and suckle milk. They're in the order of mammals called Chiroptera, which means hand wing. They've got these very elongated fingers where they've kind of evolved to be very long and support the wing membrane, which then obviously helps them fly. They're very old as a group. There aren't that many fossils of them because they're quite fragile little things. But the one on the left-hand side is about 52 million years old. So back in the Eocene period, they were around. So they've been around for quite a while. We have all sorts of lovely bats around the world. None of our UK bats are quite as impressive as these, but we've got some Honduran white bats on the top left who make little tents out of leaves in the rainforest to keep them safe. We've got the hammerhead bat on the top right, who have these amazing nasal appendages in which they use to honk at females that kind of fly past them and try and attract them to mate. We've got the fringe-lipped bat on the bottom left, who's got all sorts of interesting kind of protuberances on their face to help them kind of find and forage for their prey. And then we just got a pretty one. This is the painted bat, which can be found in rainforest as well. There are over 1,400 species of bats worldwide. You can find them almost anywhere on the planet, apart from very extreme deserts and kind of polar regions. I'm going to start by just busting a few bat myths. So, are bats blind? No, they are not blind. Even though they primarily use echolocation, ultrasonic calls to see their surroundings, they are actually, long-sighted, so they can kind of see a little bit what's going on, even in kind of dark conditions. But yes, echolocation is their primary method of navigating around our world. They emit these ultrasonic calls out into the world. And the echoes from what's around them bounce back towards the bat. They then listen to what that is and create a kind of image of what that looks like in their heads. I kind of liken it to as if you were opening your eyes very, very, very fast. It's kind of, that's what I imagine kind of bat's brain looks like. It's kind of opening their ears very, very quickly to build up that picture. So yeah, amazing evolutionary ability. Will bats fly into my hair? No, they will not, as a broad rule. They are very acrobatic flyers. Their kind of wings have been evolved to, do very tight turns, fly very fast in a lot of species. So hopefully shouldn't be ending up in your hair. Do bats drink blood? Not in the UK, they don't. So all of our UK bats are insectivorous. There are several species of vampire bat that we've got, but they don't kind of suck blood, from your neck, as it were. What they do is they make kind of small slits in kind of livestock and large animals, and then they kind of lap that up. Their blood has anticoagulant properties. So they will, happily feast on that. But they're found in Central and South America, so don't worry about them nibbling your toes at night. Onto our British bats. We've got 18 species here in the UK, 14 of which are found here in Oxfordshire. So yeah, we're lucky to have quite a good, range of species here because we've got quite a nice range of habitats. They make up around a third of all UK mammal species. As I mentioned, they're all insectivorous and they are all protected by UK law. Here's a little bit of a summary of all the different bats that we have. I'm going to have a quick canter through them in a second. But yeah, here are all 18. We've got 7 different kind of genuses that they fit into. The most speciose being the myotis bats. But in terms of those that we can actually find in Oxfordshire, as I mentioned, there are 14. We haven't got the alcathoe bat, which is kind of found around the South Downs sort of way. The greater mouse-eared bat is the rarest bat that we've got here in the UK. There are actually 2 individuals left, kind of known of this species in the UK that are they live together or they visit kind of from Europe together, and they roost in a cave in a kind of secret West Sussex site. So yeah, you definitely won't find them around here. But yeah, two bachelor bats that live in that cave. The grey long-eared bats you can only kind of find kind of Sussex, Hampshire, Isle of Wight sort of way, kind of down to Devon. But we do have the lovely brown long-eared bat, and then the greater horseshoe bat. We've got the lesser horseshoe bat, but the greater is down kind of found in the southwest. So yeah, they're protected relatively well by legislation here in the UK. It's illegal for people to take, injure, or kill a wild bat. So if you find one, generally just leave it where it is. You're also not allowed to intentionally or recklessly disturb a bat in its roost or destroy a place that is used by bats. So this is where often developers will come into trouble because they will, be taking down a house or refurbing a house, destroying roosting features for bats, and that's when they could be open to being prosecuted. You're also not allowed to possess or advertise any species of bats, exchange them. So if you have any dead bats around, don't be doing that. And you're also not allowed to obstruct access to a bat roost. So yeah, if you know that you've got bats in the air, going in and out, you're not allowed to kind of block them. It is fine to survey them with bat detectors though, which is what a lot of community groups and just kind of people like to do. But yes, the fines are indeed hefty, usually done in connection with development. You'll be fined, between £1 and several £100,000 for these crimes, which is good. We should have these fines in place to protect our bat species. So I'm going to cough a little bit. So pipistrelle bats are the kind of most common species that we've got here in the UK and in Oxfordshire. There are smallest ones, and we've got the common pipistrelles, soprano, northusius. The common is the smallest that we've got. They weigh about the same as a 20p piece. Sopranos are very, very similar. In fact, they were only identified as separate species back in the 1990s. So the soprano pipistrelle has a call that is like slightly higher than the common pipistrelle in terms of the kilohertz at which it calls. The Northusius pipistrelle is rarer, slightly larger. It's got slightly shaggier fur, so that's how you kind of differentiate it if you came across them. Sorry about that. Pipistrelles are kind of one of the best adapted bats to live in more urban environments, but you'll definitely find them in rural areas as well. Common pipistrelles will very often choose to roost in buildings generally, could be often the ones that you'll see flying around over gardens kind of just after dusk. They've got a very kind of bouncy flight, and they kind of fly, often quite low to the ground, so not too far above head height. I'll pepper my going through the bats with some facts, so it's not all just about the genuses. So yeah, here are all the different places that bats might well be using in buildings. So anything from your roof kind of lofts, to little gaps in bricks, broken tiles, behind any flashing that you might have in the eaves, that little thing It's not to scale, but yeah, a pipistrelle can enter about a 2 centimetre hole to enter any part of a building. So that's pretty small. Um, and here are some pipistrelle roosts. So yeah, kind of they'll come together in maternity roosts in the summer, which is up on the left. But they'll also very happily just kind of roost, in little pockets of bricks and small holes that they can find, which kind of mimic trees in buildings as well. Sorry about my cough. Uh, in terms of our myoted bats, we have the Becksteins, Brants, Daurbentons, Natterers, and whiskered bats in the UK, or in Oxfordshire rather, and then the Alcathoe and Greater Mouse-eared bat are outside of Oxfordshire. So they're kind of slightly bigger than the pipistrelle bat, medium-sized bats. And they're more commonly associated with woodland habitats. They're very hard to tell apart, even when you've got them in the hand, but you can differentiate them depending on the shape of their teeth, and the shape of their tragus and genitals as well will help with ID. Um, so they've got much broader wings than the pipistrelle and a kind of slower flight if you see them around, and they'll fly at heights of less than 5 meters generally. So the top right picture is a whiskered bat, and then you've got an Alcathoe and a whiskered bat in those two pictures there. Just yeah, a little bit of difference between them that you can see when they're kind of face to face. I'm going to try and play a video here, which hopefully will work for yourselves. This is a Daubenton's bat, kind of coming along and snatching up a bit of prey. They can approach speeds of kind of up to 25 miles an hour. And yeah, bats' wings, kind of wing shapes will be dependent on the habitats that they're generally used to foraging within. Um, so yeah, those that forage in maybe forests and woodlands, in dense vegetation, they will have broader wings for a slower but more maneuverable flight, so they can kind of get between those different tree trunks and things like that. Um, but then pipistrelles are kind of smaller, lighter, faster, a little bit less maneuverable, but they're yeah, able to get really quick kind of prey in more open areas. Oh, the video's playing again. Here we go. There's that Daubenton's bat again, capturing a mealworm. Hmm. We come on to horseshoe bats, who have very interesting little faces. They're the biggest bats that we've got here in the UK, and they have this really interesting nose leaf kind of on their face, which yeah, look a little bit like this. This nose leaf is to kind of focus the echolocation that's kind of coming out of their mouth. And indeed, I think out of their nasal appendages. No one's entirely sure the exact way that they work. But then they've also got these kind of these great bigger ears to pick up those sounds. So these are found in kind of caves. Generally, they like kind of congregating in kind of cool places, like a nice kind of not a very drafty loft, for example, and viaducts as well. Um, when they sleep, they kind of their wings will kind of enfold them, which look very cute, as opposed to tucking them to the sides, which our other bat species do. We've also got long-eared bats, who you'll often find in kind of open woodland habitats, parkland and orchards. They've got a slow kind of fluttery flight. Um, hmm, and they will call very quietly. They're very stealthy hunters. So um, yeah, they will often be able to creep up on things like moths and spiders that are, navigating the aerial space. And they tend to come together in smaller colonies than the pipistrelles. So you can see on the left here, we've got a little colony that are roosting in someone's loft. They've got these gorgeous big ears. They're my favourites. I think they look very cute. So yeah, here's a long-eared bat hovering here. So yeah, they're very maneuverable little bats. They're really good at yeah, navigating through those kind of more cluttered forest environments. We've also then got the Noctula genus. So we've got the noctule and the leaseless bats here. These are some of the bigger bats that we've got, often seen flying kind of over water or open grassland areas. And yeah, a noctule will weigh about the same as two £1 coins. Is kind of roughly what they weigh. So still, bigger, but still not particularly, big as animals go. And yeah, they fly very fast in kind of more open environments. Often, yeah, the noctule will fly in a very straight line, very high and very fast. So that's how you can spot them. They are kind of tree dwelling species, so bats will use all sorts of different features in trees to roost in. Often kind of rot holes or woodpecker holes are really good for colonies. Here's quite a nice graphic showing all the different places they could be found. So yeah, in any kind of big broken branches where you've got big splits and crevices, sometimes you'll find them in ivy, and even sometimes you will find species in the roots of the trees. They will go right down to the bottom of the tree as well. And lastly, we've got the barbastel and the serotine. These are each in their own individual genus. So the barbastel, it's yeah, a very rare bat that we will find in woodland habitats in Oxfordshire. It calls very quietly. It's got again those broad wings for flying around those woodland habitats. They're pretty agile flyers are the barbastels. And then the serotine, they're quite big and they tend to be around in lighter conditions. And these can often be spotted around lampposts, foraging off moths that are congregating around there. And they'll use yeah, older buildings and chimneys to roost within. So, where can you find bats? Pretty much anywhere in Oxfordshire, really. So yeah, we'll have some species living in our woodlands. That's quite a nice kind of open woodland structure on the top left there that they like to be able to navigate quite easily around. And they'll be in the trunks of the trees there, no problem. You'll find them foraging along hedgerows. They really like foraging along kind of linear features, which help them navigate the landscape, kind of like along our roads and rivers. They like to follow linear features, building up that map of the area in their minds. But yeah, they'll also be found in more urban areas, open parklands. You'll definitely see them flying around in the summer. And water as well is really good. Basically, wherever you can find some sort of insect prey, you will find bats gleaning them. And yeah, water is really good. You know how you'll get kind of clouds of insects hovering around bodies of water in the evening. You'll then definitely get bats kind of coming along and feeding off them there. Here's a bit of a distribution map of bat sightings across Oxfordshire. So quite a good spread across the area. We have got some kind of areas where sightings have been kind of congregated. So in Oxford, for example, people have done a lot of recording here. It looks like Ensham, there's quite a lot going on as well in Wallingford. But yeah, it's very much this is where people are recording bats, not necessarily where bats are the most frequent. Most of these, I think almost half of these are pipistrelle species that are being recorded. But there are also lots of brown long-eared bat and nocturnal bat records. So even if you see bats flying around, in your area, you don't necessarily know what species they are. It's still really useful information for the Thames Valley Environmental Records Centre to receive. So do log your bat sightings. And yes, this is just a bit of an illustration of how they can use different landscape features. So again, that kind of habitat connectivity is really important for bats. Urban areas are quite daunting for them to fly across. It's quite exposed for them. But putting in things like hedgerows, greening up alongside of roads, and having those nice kind of big vegetated verges are really really good for bats. And indeed, they look like using kind of blue corridors as well. So you'll often find them kind of foraging along canals and rivers. So yeah, habitat connectivity is really important for these guys. In terms of their diet, they are, very much insect eaters. So they'll have, moths, butterflies, beetles, flies, anything that will be flying around in that kind of dusk dawn time is when you'll find them. Um, you do tend to see them coming out at dawn and dusk because that is generally when the insects are out. So it's kind of warm enough for those insects to, still be active, but kind of dark enough for the bats to coming out. That little pile of butterflies at the bottom, that's a very strong indicator that a brown-longed bat is kind of in your roosting space. They really like taking out butterflies in particular, eating the meaty middle of the butterflies, and then just discarding the wings on the ground. So yeah, that's a very common brown-longed feature. A little bit about their life cycle. So in the winter months, they're very much hibernating, sometimes underground. Horseshoe bats, for example, they like to kind of go underground to in those kind of nice thermally stable environments to hibernate. But they can also definitely use cavities and house voids to hibernate, so long as there's not too much of a temperature fluctuation during the day. That's what they don't really like very much when they're hibernating, or in torpor, as it's formerly known. They go into hibernation pretty much because the insect populations really drop off in the winter time. So there's no prey around. There's not really much point in them going out and foraging. So their bodies just kind of shut down. They will go out to feed during the day, occasion or during the evenings, occasionally to drink and kind of shake their little muscles about, move position on kind of milder days, for them to glean. And yeah, different bats have different tolerance of temperatures. So pipistrelles are generally the most kind of resilient bats that you'll find. So they can withstand kind of those bigger fluctuations in temperatures. So they are definitely going to be the ones who are going to be the winners, maybe in climate change. Whereas we're getting those wetter, warmer winters where you are going to get bats rousing from their hibernation a lot more. Which is not good for their their hibernation period. So it'll be interesting to see that starting to affect them. So interesting. I mean, very sad. So this time of year, they're kind of coming out of maternity now. That you'll see them on kind of warmer nights, sunnier nights. You'll see them kind of starting to flit around areas of vegetation. They'll be doing as much feeding as possible because they'll have lost quite a lot of weight over their hibernation period. Females will be coming together in maternity roosts. So these can be up to 1,000 individuals for pipistrelles. Again, smaller for those brown long-eared bats and other species. And then males will also come together in different species, different kind of sex colonies to form bachelor roosts. And yes, starting to put on weight to have young, which is what they do during the summer. Pups are born early in the summer, usually just the one pup usually, because it is effectively like birthing a 3-year-old. It's the kind of equivalent size to what's kind of born from a bat. So usually it's just the one bat, but you can get twins occasionally. So they are suckled for kind of 4 to 5 weeks. And females stay very, very close to them during the day, but they do leave them at night. They'll kind of take it in turns to go out and feed. They all kind of form a little creche basically. So all the females will look out for all the other females as young, which is rather lovely. They will then, after this time, start going out for little test flights. Often you'll find little baby bats on the ground, kind of in the later summer months, and the Bat Conservation Trust has a helpline to help anyone who might find some baby bats, lost, vulnerable on the floor to predators. So I'll put a link to some of their resources at the end of the talk. But yes, once all the babies have gone, they start mating, swarming, and storing. They all kind of come together in these big colonies, and they've got these very specialized calls for this time of year. Swarming behavior is something that we don't really know very much about, but we think it's something to do with kind of mating and information exchanges kind of between those bats. So yeah, males will breed with multiple females, who will then delay fertilization until the spring. So they'll kind of hold that sperm within them until yeah, March, April sort of time. So they'll also very much be feeding as much as they can this time of year, putting on weight for that winter hibernation. The more fat that they can put on, the kind of less frequent they will have to wake up during the winter. So they've got better survival rates. So yeah, getting as many insects in as possible during this time. Some species will migrate to the mainland. So Northusius pipistrelles have been known to fly as far as Russia, so kind of 2,000 kilometers, over this time. So yeah, they're very, very resilient little things. Um, Here, I'm just going to show. So this is a soprano pipistrelle maternity roost, and this is some kind of swarming behaviour you can see here. So yeah, bats all kind of flying around together. They're kind of coming in and out of their space where they're roosting. But yeah, mostly it is that kind of swarming together. No one's really sure what's going on. It's a mysterious behaviour to us still. Righty. So yeah, why are they important? Why are we bothering to conserve our little bat species? Um, So they're indicators of a really healthy ecosystem generally. If there are lots of insects around, then there will be lots of bats around. And well, obviously you don't want too many insects in your environment. They are amazing pest control. So a single pipistrelle will eat something ridiculous like 1,000 insects a night. So without bats, we'd be completely overrun by insects. And with the rise of insecticides and pesticides being used, bats are kind of struggling to sometimes get the food that they need. So their populations have very much been in decline over the last kind of few decades, with kind of agricultural intensification, and indeed habitat kind of fragmentation as well. In other countries, they are pollinators. You can see on the left there a bat getting its face right stuck into a flower. They pollinate things like kind of grapes, bananas, guavas, tequila, a very important one. So yeah, they do. Yeah, kind of have that ecosystem service that we need. So yeah, very important things. I'm now going to try and play some back calls. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a go. So these are things that you will hear on a bat detector if you have one. So let me know if you can hear this. So this is a pipistrelle bat. Nope, I'm not hearing that. 2 seconds. Let me see if I can. Ah, it's not working. That's so sad. Um, it was, of course, working perfectly fine earlier, and now it is not, as per usual. But what I'll do is I'll put a link to some bat sounds that you'll be able to hear. If I put that in the chat now, I'll just very copy that. We'll try and copy that. 2 seconds. So pipistrelle bats, I won't try and imitate them because I won't be able to do a very good job. But they sound like kind of wet, very fast little wet slaps. So like blub 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 blub. Nuptials have more of a kind of chip chop chip chop chip chop chip chop sort of sound. Natterers bats sound more like a machine gun. They're much more like as they're going through the air. And then lesser horseshoe bats, they sound kind of like a drunk clanger, is what I think they sound like. They're kind of like like that. So I'm very sorry if that the sounds aren't working and you've had to wait do with my impressions. But yeah, I'll make sure that those sounds are embedded in the presentation. That if we're able to send them around. And yeah, I'll send that link around as well. This is what they look like on spectrograms. So one way that we can tell different bat species apart is by listening to them, listening in on their calls, recording them, and then looking at what frequency the bat calls are kind of um, being kind of called at. So this one here, you can see it's got these kind of like calls going across, and then the place where the energy is being focused the most concentratedly is the red spots that we've got kind of in the middle there. You can read off that that is around 55 kilohertz, which is the frequency at which a soprano pipistrelle will call. So from that, we can tell that this is a soprano pipistrelle call. Common pipistrelles call at about 45 kilohertz. Noctules are lower, around 25. Horseshoe bats will call much, much higher, around over 100 kilohertz. So yeah, and they also have different kind of shapes to their calls as well. So if you do have these kind of spectrograms, you can figure out what species they are. But you don't necessarily need to be able to collect that data to have a bit of an idea of what those bat species are. One thing that I will kind of send around with the slides afterwards is this Sunset Survey Species ID sheet. So basically looking at the shape of a bat's wings, what kind of their flight patterns look like, you can get a bit of an idea of what those bat species are. So pipistrelles have that kind of like quite bouncy flight. They'll be flying over hedgerows. You've got nocturnal bats will be flying in a straight line, occasionally dipping down to get some insects from a hedge or similar. Long-eared bats will have that kind of fluttery flight. You can sometimes see their ears sticking up if there's enough light. And then Dorbenton's bats are very closely associated with water. So you'll see them kind of skimming across the surface of the water to catch insects in their little kind of feet pouch. Yeah, so you can use bat detectors to listen in on bats. I think this magenta detector retails at about £80 at the moment. You can get cheaper ones and a lot more expensive ones, but this is the one that I thinking about getting into bat detecting. This is the one that I have and I like to use. You can scroll kind of between the frequencies to listen on different species of bats. And yeah, most nights, clear nights, you'll usually be able to hear the pipistrelles. There are other survey methods that you can use, such as mist netting, where you can put up very, very fine nets, and the bats will fly into them. You untangle them and can do scientific research on them. Harp trapping is very similar. It kind of it's a setup where you have very, very thin strings like a harp that the bats can't detect with their echolocation, so they'll kind of fall into it, flutter down into a bag, and then you can collect them and do research on them. And then box checking as well. So there are sites like I think White and Wood's got some bat boxes. There's a really good study in Findmere Woods, which is just outside of Oxfordshire. There's a long-term study of the bat species there that they do lots of box checking during the summer. A license is needed for this, but you are welcome to contact your local bat group and see if they're doing these sorts of surveys with licensed people if you do want to get up close and personal to bats a little bit more. In terms of attracting them to your green space, basically the rule is where there are insects, the bats will also come along. So yeah, basically creating any pockets of kind of shelter where the insects are able to congregate to not be swept away. That's really, really good for bats who will then be able to come and swoop in and feed on them. Linear features connecting to and around the site, so you might not be able to control this so much, but yeah, if you are able to kind of plant a hedgerow along your borders, that's a really nice feature along which bats can navigate. So yeah, that'll kind of attract them. And a pond is really good. As I mentioned, insects like to congregate above the surface of water, and so where you have got that, you will have the bats will come along as well. as well as, well, yeah, so, how can you interact the insects in that at that time of day in particular? So yeah, having a variety of different flowers in your garden, maybe they've got different colours, fragrances, and shapes to attract different species. Pale flowers can be seen more easily in poor light, so you'll often find insects more attracted to those at the dusk sort of time. Single flowers are good as opposed to those because they produce more nectar than the kind of double flowered varieties. Um, Flowers with landing platforms, so kind of if you think about your umbellifer species, um, you'll get insects kind of coming and landing on them. So yeah, things like cow parsley, carrot, wild carrot. That's really, really good for attracting insects and therefore bats. And you can also get night-scented plants. So evening primrose, night-scented stock, jasmine and honeysuckle are really good kind of drawing in insects at that time of day to therefore draw in your bats. And yeah, as I mentioned, generally avoiding pesticide use is a good idea. Sounds like Lucy's got one up already, but yeah, you could definitely consider putting up a bat box on your property. There are all sorts of different shapes and sizes of these, but they all kind of do the same job, creating those crevices that bats like to go into and live in. So in terms of siting these should be, at least 4 meters from the ground. If you've got some sort of eaves or loft space, as close as to that as possible. Away from any artificial light sources is very much recommended. Sheltered from kind of winds and exposed to the sun for as much as possible, during the day. So yeah, having them on a southeast or southwest kind of orientation is really good for that. So just a few further resources. The Bat Conservation Trust website is the place to be. They've got all sorts of great guidance on there in terms of how to survey them, get involved with national surveying projects. Again, you don't necessarily need a detector for this. You can do kind of sunset surveys where you're given a route and you kind of spot the bats so you can see just with your eyes. Yeah, all sorts of information about their ecology, habitats, and all of that jazz. We do have an Oxfordshire bat group who are relatively active, so I'd encourage you to check them out. But we've also got the North Bucks bat group, Berkshire and South Buckinghamshire bat group who are really active. They do lots of different surveys and have different projects running nearby. So if you're really keen, I definitely recommend checking them out. And that is the end of my talk. Here I am